The sun was a warm hand on their faces. The little boat, named Sea Sparkle, moved gently. It cut through the blue water like a happy sigh. On board, a family smiled. There was a father, strong and steady at the tiller. There was a mother, her laughter like music on the breeze. And there was a baby boy, little Leo, with eyes as blue as the ocean itself. He gurgled and waved his tiny fists at the dancing light on the waves. Beside him, ever watchful, sat Max, a golden retriever with a heart as big as the sea. Max loved the boat. He loved the salty air. Most of all, he loved his family, especially little Leo. The day stretched out, perfect and calm. The sky was a vast, unblemished canvas of azure. White gulls cried overhead, their calls echoing the joy in the boat. Leo would reach for them, his small fingers opening and closing. Max would watch him, a low thump of his tail against the deck, showing his contentment. The parents talked softly, their voices a gentle murmur against the rhythmic splash of the waves. They pointed out distant shores, dreaming of small adventures. The Sea Sparkle was their escape, their small world of peace. It felt like nothing could ever go wrong in such a perfect moment, under such a perfect sky. Max rested his head on his paws, his brown eyes half closed. He could feel the sun on his fur, the gentle rock of the boat. He could hear Leo's soft breathing nearby. These were good sounds, safe sounds, the smell of the salt, the distant scent of land, all mixed into a comforting perfume. The father hummed a sea shanty, a tune Max knew well. It was a song of calm waters and safe returns. The world was simple, the world was good. Max felt a deep peace settle in his bones, a quiet happiness that filled him from his wet nose to the tip of his ever-wagging tail. But sometimes the sea holds secrets. Sometimes the calm is just a breath held before a storm. Max, with senses sharper than his humans, felt a tiny shift. It was nothing much. A slight change in the wind's direction, a different taste to the air, almost metallic. He lifted his head, his ears perked. He looked out at the horizon, a long, searching look. The humans didn't notice. They were laughing, pointing at a playful dolphin. But Max felt it, a small, cold whisper that something was about to change. The perfect day was holding its breath. The change came fast, faster than anyone could believe. One moment, the sun was bright. The next, dark clouds rolled in like an angry tide. They swallowed the blue sky. The wind, once a gentle friend, became a screaming fury. It whipped the waves into tall green monsters. The Sea Sparkle, so joyful moments before, was now a tiny toy in a giant, angry bathtub. The father fought the tiller, his knuckles white. The mother clutched Leo tightly, her face pale with a growing fear. Her musical laughter was gone, replaced by anxious whispers to her child, trying to soothe him. The storm hit with the force of a giant fist. Rain lashed down, cold and hard. It stung their faces and blinded their eyes. Thunder boomed, a terrible, deafening roar that shook the little boat. Waves crashed over the bow, sending icy water into the cockpit. The Sea Sparkle groaned and creaked, fighting to stay afloat. Max stood, his legs braced, his body low to the deck. He whined, a sound of deep distress. He pushed closer to Leo and the mother, trying to offer some comfort, some shield against the terrifying noise and the lashing water. His calm was gone, replaced by a primal urge to protect. Then the unthinkable happened. A huge wave, taller than all the others, rose up like a dark wall. It hung there for a heart-stopping second, then crashed down onto the Sea Sparkle with terrible power. There was a sound of splintering wood, a scream. The boat was thrown sideways, then over. Cold, churning water was everywhere. Chaos, darkness. The family was flung into the raging sea. Max felt the icy shock as he hit the water. He paddled hard, his strong legs working, his head breaking the surface, gasping for air amidst the spray and the driving rain. His first thought, his only thought, was Leo. He scanned the churning water, his eyes desperate. He saw a flash of yellow Leo's tiny life jacket. The baby was being tossed by the waves, too close to a piece of broken mast. The parents were nowhere to be seen in the maelstrom. Max didn't hesitate. He swam, fighting the current, fighting the waves. He reached Leo. The baby was crying, a small, terrified sound almost lost in the storm's roar. Max nudged him, pushed him, keeping his head above the water. He had to save the baby. It was the only thing that mattered now. Hours passed, or maybe minutes. Time had no meaning in the storm. Max paddled, his muscles burning, his lungs aching. He held onto a piece of floating wreckage with his teeth, and with his body he guided little Leo, who was miraculously still strapped to a buoyant seat that had broken free. The storm began to tire, the waves lessened their fury, and the rain softened to a drizzle. Through the grey mist, Max saw it, land. A dark shape against the lighter grey of the sky, an island. It was small, but it was land. Hope, a tiny spark, flickered within him. He had to reach it. With renewed effort, fueled by desperation and an incredible will, Max swam towards the island. He pushed the floating seat with Leo in it, using his head and shoulders. Each stroke was agony, but he kept going. The current was strong, trying to pull them away, but Max fought it. Closer and closer, the shore came into view. Sand, trees, safety. Finally, with a last gasping surge, his paws touched the sandy bottom. He dragged himself and then Leo onto the beach, collapsing onto the wet sand, his body trembling with exhaustion. But Leo was safe. He was on land. Max didn't rest for long. The instinct to protect, to provide, was too strong. He licked Leo's face, tasting the salt and the tears. The baby was cold and whimpering. Shelter. They needed shelter. Max got to his feet, his legs shaky. He explored the edge of the beach, sniffing the air, his eyes scanning the dense green jungle that rose behind the sand. He found a small overhang of rock, sheltered by thick bushes. It wasn't much, but it was dry and out of the wind. Carefully he nudged Leo's seat under the rock ledge, creating a small, safe den for the child. Next, food and water. Max knew these were vital. He nosed around the base of palm trees, his tail giving a hopeful wag when he found a few fallen coconuts. He couldn't open them, not yet, but it was a start. He lapped at a puddle of rainwater collected in a broad leaf. He then nudged a leaf full of water towards Leo, but the baby was too young. Max licked the water from the leaf himself, then gently licked Leo's lips, trying to share the moisture. He would have to find another way. For now, warmth and safety were his first gifts to the small human he had saved. Days turned into a routine of survival, dictated by the sun and the tide. Max was Leo's constant companion, his furry guardian. He would lie beside the baby, his warm body a shield against the cool night air. When Leo cried, Max would nuzzle him gently, licking away his tears with a soft tongue. He learned to crack open young, softer coconuts by repeatedly dropping them on sharp rocks, lapping up the sweet water and then nudging the soft white flesh towards Leo's small hands. The baby, surprisingly resilient, would grasp at the food, his tiny fingers exploring Max's wet nose. A deep and unspoken bond grew between them. Leo, too young to understand what had happened, knew only Max. Max was warmth, Max was food, Max was safety. He would babble at the dog, his little voice filling their small shelter. He would pull on Max's ears, and Max would endure it with patient affection. When Max went to forage for food, crabs scuttling on the beach, fish washed into tide pools, or edible roots he dug up, Leo would watch him go with wide, anxious eyes, and then greet his return with excited coos and waving arms. Max was his whole world now. Max became an expert islander. He learned the rhythm of the tides, knowing when the best time was to find stranded fish or crabs. He learned which berries were safe by sniffing them carefully, sometimes eating a tiny bit and waiting, just like his wild ancestors might have done. He kept watch for any danger, his ears always alert, his nose testing the wind. He would bark fiercely at any large bird that flew too close to their shelter, a furry sentinel protecting his precious charge. He was tired, often hungry, but he never gave up. Leo needed him. That was all that mattered. Their life was hard, a daily struggle against the elements, but there was also a strange kind of peace. The sun rose each day, painting the sky with hope. The waves whispered on the shore, a constant lullaby. Max and Leo, a dog and a baby, alone on a forgotten island. They had faced the fury of the sea and survived. They had found a way to live. Their bond, forged in the heart of a storm and tempered by the challenges of survival, was a testament to courage, to loyalty, and to the enduring strength of the will to live. Hope was alive on their small patch of green.